P. The Billion-Dollar Divorce. How Isabel Preysler became richer than Julio Iglesias. P. They called her the most beautiful woman in Spain. She was 21 years old, a Filipino beauty queen who'd moved to Madrid and captured the heart of the country's rising music star. When Isabel Preysler married Julio Iglesias in 1971, Spain's tabloids declared it a fairy tale. The exotic beauty and the romantic singer, the perfect couple. By 1979, the fairy tale was over, and what happened next would prove that sometimes the person who loses the marriage wins everything else. Madrid, January 1979. The divorce papers were signed in a lawyer's office overlooking the Paseo de la Castellana. Julio was at the peak of his career. Albums selling millions, concerts sold out across Europe and Latin America, his face on magazine covers from Tokyo to Buenos Aires. The financial settlement seemed straightforward. Isabel would get the house, child support for their 3 children, Chabeli, Julio Jr. and Enrique, and a modest monthly allowance. Julio's lawyers calculated that he'd be paying out perhaps $2 million over the lifetime of the agreement. Expensive, certainly, but manageable for a man earning tens of millions per year. What they didn't calculate was Isabel, strong. The divorce wasn't just the end of a marriage. It was the beginning of Isabel Preysler's transformation from trophy wife to self-made icon. And 45 years later, the woman who walked away from Julio Iglesias would be worth more than the man who left her. But let's start at the beginning. Manila, 1948. Maria Isabel Preysler, Arrastia, was born into an aristocratic Filipino-Spanish family. Her father was a successful businessman. Her mother, from Spanish nobility. Isabel grew up in privilege, educated in the best schools, groomed for high society. She was beautiful, striking Filipina features, elegant bearing, natural charisma that made rooms go quiet when she entered. At 19, she moved to Madrid to study. Spain was still under Franco's dictatorship, still conservative, still traditional. A young Filipino woman arriving alone was unusual. A young Filipino woman who looked like Isabel was impossible to ignore. She met Julio at a party in 1970. He was 27, recently recovered from the car crash that had ended his football career, just beginning to break through as a singer. She was 22, working in public relations, navigating Madrid's elite social circles with ease. Their courtship was a tabloid dream. He serenaded her. She graced his concerts. They married in January 1971, and Spain fell in love with them both. But the marriage had cracks from the beginning. Julio's career demanded constant travel. 200, 250, 300 days a year on the road. Isabel wanted a husband. Julio wanted the world. 3 children in 7 years. Chabeli in 1971. Julio Jr. in 1973. Enrique in 1975. And Isabel was essentially a single mother in a Madrid mansion, while her husband sang to other women across Europe. The arguments were legendary. Friends remember screaming matches, thrown objects, long silences. Isabel wanted him home. Julio said his career required sacrifice. Isabel said she'd made enough sacrifices. Julio said she didn't understand the music industry. By 1978, the marriage was over in everything but paperwork. Julio was having affairs, not even discreetly anymore. Isabel, proud and dignified, refused to be humiliated publicly. She told him, "Leave or I will." Julio left. The divorce settlement in 1979 seemed straightforward enough. Isabel got the Puerta de Hierro mansion, worth perhaps $2 million at the time, custody of the 3 children, and monthly payments for their support. Julio kept his music empire, his international career, his freedom. Spain's society pages predicted Isabel would remarry within a year, probably to another entertainer, maybe a businessman. She was 32 years old, breathtakingly beautiful, mother of 3. Surely, she'd find another wealthy man to support her lifestyle. What Spain didn't predict was that Isabel Preysler didn't need another man's money. She was about to build her own empire. Step 1. Become more famous than your ex-husband. This seems counterintuitive. Most divorced wives of celebrities fade from public view. But Isabel understood something crucial. In Spain's society pages, she was already famous, not as Julio's wife, but as Isabel, the beauty, the style icon, the woman everyone wanted to photograph. So instead of retreating, she advanced. She accepted every interview request. She attended every important Madrid social event. She was photographed at gallery openings, charity galas, fashion shows. Always immaculately dressed. Always gracious. Always alone or with her children. Never appearing desperate for male attention. The Spanish media loved her. Here was a woman who'd been publicly wronged. Everyone knew about Julio's affairs, but who refused to play the victim. She was dignified, elegant, and increasingly, she was the story, not Julio. Step 2. Marry strategically. In 1980, Isabel married Carlos Falcó, the Marquis of Griñón, Spanish nobility, wealthy, titled, sophisticated. It seemed like a rebound, a divorced woman seeking security. But it was more calculated than that. The marriage lasted 7 years and produced one daughter, Tamara. When they divorced in 1987, Isabel had achieved something crucial. She was now not just famous, but legitimized. She'd married into Spanish aristocracy. Her social position was unassailable. And crucially, she'd proven she could navigate high society on her own terms. Step 3. Build a media empire. Throughout the 1980s and 90s, Isabel became Spain's most sought-after media personality. Not as an actress or singer. She had no illusions about competing with Julio in entertainment, but as herself. The socialite, the style icon, the woman everyone wanted to interview. She hosted television shows. She became a columnist. She endorsed products, cosmetics, fashion, jewelry. Every appearance was carefully managed, every interview perfectly executed. She was building a brand. Isabel Preysler, the epitome of Spanish elegance. The money started adding up. Television contracts, endorsement deals, appearance fees at events. She wasn't just famous, she was profitable. Step 4. Marry a minister. In 1988, Isabel married Miguel Boyer, Spain's former Minister of Economy and Finance. This wasn't just another wealthy man. This was access to Spain's political and financial elite. Boyer introduced Isabel to businessmen, politicians, investors. Her network expanded exponentially. More importantly, Boyer taught her about finance, about investments, about building wealth beyond appearance fees. When he died in 2014, Isabel inherited a substantial fortune, but more valuable than the money was the education. She now understood how wealth actually worked. Step 5. Become an institution. By the 2000s, Isabel Preysler wasn't just famous in Spain. She was an institution. Young women wanted to dress like her. Brands wanted her endorsement because her taste was trusted. Event organizers wanted her presence because it legitimized their gatherings. She'd mastered something few celebrities achieve: longevity without diminishing returns. As she aged, she became more valuable, not less. Elegance, after all, improves with age when it's genuine. Her daughters, Chabeli, Tamara, Anna, grew up watching their mother build an empire from grace and intelligence. They followed her into media, into fashion, into business. The Preysler name became a brand itself. Step 6. Strategic relationship visibility. In 2014, Isabel began a relationship with Mario Vargas Llosa, the Nobel Prize-winning author. This was masterful. She was now romantically linked with a literary genius, an intellectual titan. The relationship, which ended in 2023, added another dimension to her public image. She wasn't just beautiful and elegant, she was cultured, intellectual, worthy of a Nobel laureate's attention. Every relationship, whether calculated or genuine, added to her brand. Meanwhile, Julio Iglesias continued touring, recording, performing. He made hundreds of millions from his music career. He lived well. Homes around the world, private jets, the lifestyle of a global superstar. But here's the thing about touring musicians. The money goes out almost as fast as it comes in. Maintaining a touring operation is expensive. Band members, crew, hotels, transportation, promotion, and lifestyle expenses, multiple homes, staff, family support. Julio earned phenomenal amounts, but he also spent phenomenally. Isabel, by contrast, built wealth differently. Every endorsement deal was invested. Every television contract was negotiated for maximum value. Her expenses were controlled. One home, albeit spectacular, staff, but no touring operation bleeding money. She lived well, but she built wealth strategically. By 2010, financial analysts began noticing something unusual. Isabel Preysler's net worth was climbing faster than her ex-husband's. Her investments in Spanish real estate, her media contracts, her endorsement empire, all carefully managed, were generating serious wealth. And unlike Julio, whose career would eventually slow as he aged, Isabel's value as a cultural icon only increased. She was timeless in a way that touring musicians rarely achieve. 2024, financial estimates are notoriously imprecise for celebrities. But the numbers that circulate in Spanish business circles are striking. Julio Iglesias, estimated net worth between $600 to $800 million. Phenomenal, certainly. Built from one of the most successful music careers in history. Isabel Preysler, estimated net worth between $700 million and $1.2 billion. Some analysts claim higher. Built from media, endorsements, strategic marriages, investments, and pure personal brand management. The woman who walked away from the marriage with a house and child support had out-earned the man who left her to become a global superstar. But here's what makes this story more than just about money. Isabel never bad-mouthed Julio publicly, never played the victim, never wrote a tell-all book or gave bitter interviews. She took the high road so consistently that eventually the high road became her brand. When asked about Julio in interviews, she's always gracious. He's the father of my children. He was a very important part of my life. No anger, no bitterness, just dignity. That dignity became more valuable than any revenge could have been. Her children, especially Enrique, speak of her with awe. My mother raised 3 children alone while building a career and maintaining grace under constant public scrutiny, Enrique has said. She's the strongest person I know. Julio, for his part, has admitted in later years. Isabel was the best thing that ever happened to me, and I didn't realize it until it was too late. She's extraordinary. So here's the real question. Is this revenge? Isabel has never called it that. She's never claimed to be in competition with Julio. She's simply lived her life, built her career, made smart decisions, and become an icon. But if revenge is living well, if revenge is proving that you don't need the person who left you, if revenge is building something valuable from the ashes of a failed marriage, then yes, this is revenge. The most elegant, graceful, devastating revenge in celebrity history. The divorce that everyone thought would destroy Isabel Preysler turned out to be her liberation. She went from being Julio's wife to being Isabel, just Isabel, no surname necessary in Spain. Everyone knows who you mean. And the man who chose his career over his family did achieve everything he wanted. Global fame, hundreds of millions of albums sold, recognition as one of the greatest Latin singers ever. But the woman he left behind? She became richer, more respected, more culturally significant in Spain than he ever was. Two people, one divorce, two completely different paths to power and wealth. Julio chose the stage. Isabel chose strategy. Julio chose performance. Isabel chose permanence. Julio chose fame. Isabel chose empire. And in the end, the balance sheet tells the story. The woman who was supposed to need him turned out to need no one. The man who thought he could do better did well, but she did better. That's not just revenge. That's reinvention. That's transformation. That's taking what was meant to break you and building something unbreakable instead. Isabel Preysler, now 73 years old, remains one of Spain's most photographed, most respected, most valuable cultural figures. Brands still compete for her endorsement. Events still want her presence. Young women still study how she dresses, how she speaks, how she moves through the world with that particular combination of grace and power. Julio Iglesias, now 80, still performs occasionally, still loved by millions. But when he returns to Spain, the tabloids don't just cover him, they cover whether Isabel will comment. She's become the measuring stick, the reference point, the one who got away and then built an empire. The fairy tale that ended in 1979 had a sequel no one predicted, and in that sequel, the princess didn't need rescuing. She didn't need another prince. She didn't need anything except her own intelligence, grace, and strategic brilliance. And that might be the best revenge of all. Not needing revenge, just winning. Quietly, elegantly, completely.